Welcome, friends. Friends, let us start with the further discussion of residential status. In my previous class, I've already explained you the basics about the residential status, and let me just take up now one more question, which is also a detailed question which is similar to what we have solved it in my previous class, and it's a very good, handsome question. And question like this, friends, first of all, going to clarify your hardcore basics. So that was this type question is very valuable for understanding the topic. Okay. So let me read the question. And friends, I also told you in my previous class that all chapter is having a chapter ID number. So you can see it on the screen that this is my chapter ID number A3. Then page number also you can see it on the screen. So each time, friends, I bring up this particular book on the screen, you can see it, your page number, chapter ID number, everything is printed on the screen itself. So you can follow that. Okay. Now, question ID number 17. And I already told you that I'm always going to concentrate and focus on the question ID number. So whatever that I speak, friends, it's going to be ID numbers, not the serial number, not the question number. Okay. Let me read the question, friends. X is a foreign citizen, not being a person of Indian origin. During the financial year 10-11, he comes to India for 85 days. Determine his residential status for the assessment year 11-12 on the assumption during the financial year 96-97 to 2010-11, he was present in India as follows. Then all the respective years 96-97, 97-98, 98-99, 99-2000, 2000-2001, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10. Number of days stay 85, 310, 6 days, 5 days, 65 days, 180 days, 360 days, 16 days, 360 days, 181 days, 305 days, 65 days, 10 days, and 126 days. That's all. Friends, please go through the question. The question look like what we have already solved in my previous class. The format of solving will also be the same in a similar style, but I have taken this repeated type question with some different numbers only for the better practice. Okay, and it is a must. This type question is hardcore basics for understanding the residential status. Okay, so friends, take your own time. Read the question at least 2-3 times. It is very important that students should read and dive into the question and understand the question. Okay, so take your own time, friends. Don't wait for me. I mean, I'm very comfortable when I'm not in the hurry to solve any question, friends. So I'll take my own time. Enjoy, relax. You got to enjoy the question actually. Okay, so this is question ID number 17. Question ID number 17. So how do we look like? I mean, you can just turn your page and see how that previous question that we have already solved. Come on. And I already told you also, friends, that in order to solve question like this, you have to analyze multiple year data. Okay, so that's a must because the law is like that, friends. So the method of calculating the residential status under the law itself requires analysis of multiple year data. But friends, you are doing this multiple year data analysis for deciding whether for the previous year you are resident, not resident, or ordinarily resident, or something like that. So decision that you are taking, friends, is for the previous year. Okay. So let's go to the question. Let me read the question again, baby. And I'm very comfortable. There's no hurry, friends. So don't do that. Oh, I want to immediately solve the question. Not like that. So during the financial year, so this is your financial year. So you want answer of residential status for this financial year. Okay. He comes to India and he has stayed for 85 days. Okay. So if this is your financial year, that means if this is your previous year, your assessment is going to be 11-12. And friends, let me tell you, in residential status chapter, always focus on the previous year because it is a stay in the previous year. Assessment is always the year of procedure, friends. I already told you in the basic definition. So your previous year residential status depends on your stay during the previous year or the years preceding the previous year. It is always with reference to the previous year. So question will purposely print both previous year and the assessment year, particularly in the question like this. So the students confused that 1 year difference also is going to take your answer to a different level. Okay. So this is my previous year. So 10, 11. So 9, 10 is going to be my before year. So preceding the previous year in certain situations. Okay. So these are before year 1, before year 2 or something like that. Okay. First of all, friends, to analyze, you will need 4 years preceding data in order to decide the resident. Okay. So you require previous year stay, which is 85 days. So you require 85 days for the analysis purpose. And you require 4 years before. So this much you require. That is our before year, before year, before year. It is before the previous year. And I already told you, friends, that because it requires multiple year analysis of the question, multiple year analysis of the years, you will have to understand these questions with respect to previous year. So this series of years printed here in this question can be different in the examination condition. Okay. And that's the reason I'm always talking, my language is like previous year and the before year, previous year and the before year. So whatever examination previous year given, that before year you have to do. So we are not solving this question for the previous year 10, 11. Now we are solving for our latest previous year. The data of the number of years, the sequence of the years printed in the question is only illustrative. But I will organize my data. See, organizing data is very important here from a question point of view, because otherwise there is very much a likely chance that you will do silly mistakes. Okay. So if you put it in your time sequence like this, so this is your previous year is 85 days, before year, before year, before year, before year, before year, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So this is before the year is 126 days stay in India, 10 days stay in India, then 65 days stay in India, then 305 days stay in India, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So you do all these calculations and everything before. Is that okay? So we'll take care. Don't worry. But this is only for your understanding. We need to organize this in terms of our answer. Okay. So let us start with our answer. Okay. So what I will write is, something like that. See, I will say previous year. Then I will write before year 1. I'm just writing this before year 1 only for your understanding, students. Okay. Actually, it's not required because the series of the year is already printed in the question. But you got to understand, because see, if you refer this question in my homework section or any other material that you have, then you have to link that what previous year printed in the question and the before years. That we have to link the question answer. Okay. That's the reason, only to show you. Okay. So in the question, the previous year printed is 10, 11. Okay. Before year is going to be 9, 10. So I'll just copy the sequence. 8, 9. 7, 8. 6, 7. 5, 6. 4, 5. 3, 4. 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay. Then 2000, 2001. Then 99, 2000. 98, 99, whatever number of years. And sometimes, the silly mistakes are possible here. in the given situation, even by writing this series, sometimes even see, because you're just copying the series, no. So in that also, that one small mistake, 1 year 4 5 instead of 4 5 you wrote 3 4 by mistake. So it will create a problem. So here that kind of, what should I say, the presence of mind, friends, will be required. Okay. So 98, 99, then 97, 98, then 96, 97. Okay, whatever year's data has been printed, I will just say before year 2, before year 3, before year 4, before year 5, before year 6, before year 7, before year 8, before year 9, before year 10, before 11, before 12, before 13, before 14. Is that okay? Then number of days stay in India. Let me tell you, friends, that you got to read in the question properly, that this is number of days stay in India, because sometimes some questions to confuse you, just to confuse you, they will give the number of days stay outside India. And friends, let me tell you, if this kind of situation comes, number of days stay outside India, then you have to convert that to number of days stay inside India, and you will go nasty. However, as I told you, because this is initial questions, these initial questions will not create this kind of a problem to you in problem solving. He was present in India, because our test, the method of calculating the residential status, friends, it is with respect to number of days stay inside India. However, friends, let me tell you that number of days stay in India can be anywhere. Like you can stay few days in this state, few days in that state. You can travel in India, anywhere in India. Okay. And this stay is actually understood as actual physical stay, irrespective of the purpose. That means you are staying in India for what purpose? Whether you are staying in India for work, whether you are doing it for personal purpose, that's all these things are not relevant. Your actual physical stay in India. That is what is important. And that also will take care in due course of time, but I'm just grooming you to that particular level, and the present in India is given. Okay, so my previous year is 85 days, then this is before year, this is before year, etc. So let me update that. Okay, and this is 85 days. Uh, 126. Just check, because here, no, friends, even copying the data sometimes can be, I mean, silly mistakes. It is possible. 126, 10, 65, 305, 181, 360, then 16, then 360 again, 180, 65, 5, 6, 310, and 85. Okay, I've just copied that particular sequence, but again here I have copied in the sequence before year. Okay, because this sequence also, if you write other way around, then also it will be a problem. So this basic things, friends, a basic presentation of the answer that you have to develop. Is that okay? Now I want you all guys to come to our study material and go through this particular condition, friends. And this is already printed and given to you also. Okay, so A, B. That's okay. So this is your condition A, your condition B. And for the purpose of deciding residential status, that means resident, only that much. Okay, and in my previous class I already told you, the word resident is different. resident and ordinary resident is a different term altogether. So when you are talking about resident, so you got to think about A and B. Okay. And in A and B, you require previous year data. You require previous year data. And you require data of 4 years preceding the previous year. This much data is, friends, basically required for the purpose of deciding your status with respect to the previous year. Okay. So I'll just copy these particular conditions. I'll just copy, friends, and put it here. Or rather, I will say that these are the conditions. A or B. A or B. Okay. Stay in India during the previous year. Actual number of days stay greater than equal to 182 days. That is a condition. So I have to compare it with the actual. Okay. B. Stay in India during the previous year. Actual number of days I have to put. Okay. Should be greater than equal to 60 and stay in India in 4 years preceding the previous year should be greater than or equal to 365. This is test or the method which is required to decide your residential status. Okay. So stay in India. This fill in the blank I have to put the actual numbers. So that actual numbers I have to match with the number of days stay which is given to me by the law under section 6. Okay. I will do that. Don't worry. And after doing this, I'll have to write a conclusion. So in conclusion, I will write like that, condition A is satisfied. So, or I will write condition B is satisfied. So I am resident. Something like that it will look like. Is that okay? Fair enough. Let me go back to the question. So your previous year stay is 85 and this is your 4 years before. And see if you take the total that 365 days, no? So it is 305 plus 65 plus 10. So, I mean, I don't require that exact number, basically. But what you can do, friends, as a student, for fill in the blank, you can use your calculator and take the total of these 4 years and see whether it is matching with the condition of 365 days. Correct? But I see I'm apparently only 305 plus 65. So that is more than 365. Finish. So that 4 years condition satisfied. Other conditions I have to test. Is that okay? So, sweetheart, okay. Stay in India during the previous year. So, previous year is here itself 85. Let me change the ink color, baby. Okay. So, this is your 85. So, previous year is 85. And 4 years preceding is, let me take the total. That is your 126 plus 10 plus 65 plus 305. These are 4 years number of days stay in India total. You can just fill in the blank. You can use your own calculator. So I'm not doing that very basic work. But I have already got it in my back memory that this condition is satisfied. Okay. So in the given case, condition A is not satisfied, but condition B is satisfied. So A or B. If any one test is satisfied, A or B, you are resident in India. In some of the problems, in some of the situations, you will satisfy both of them also. A also you will satisfy, B also. For example, during the previous year, for example, just take your own self. Okay, for your own self, you are staying in India for all 365 days. You are not traveling abroad. So you are always full resident in India. So it is A or B. Okay, so if any A or B is satisfied, okay, you are resident. So let us write the conclusion. What is the name of this gentleman? I guess that is Mr. X. Let me see in the question. X, Mr. X, a foreign citizen. Okay, Mr. X satisfy condition B. Thus, he is resident in India. Thus, he is resident in India. Friends, once you have developed this conclusion that you are resident in India, only then you have to go and check whether you are resident and ordinarily resident or not. So people who are of resident types can further be categorized into resident and ordinarily resident or not ordinarily resident. Okay, so this conclusion is already developed. Now, look at this, come to this page of additional condition. So both the additional conditions, I repeat, both the additional conditions, that means 1 and 2. If it is satisfied, then you will be resident and ordinary resident. So if you understand in the chart manner, see, first of all, you have to decide whether you are resident or you are non-resident. This is based on A or B. And if you are resident, only then you have to apply or think about further test. And for non-resident, no such specific test. It is like a balancing decision. Okay. So then you can be resident and ordinarily resident, or resident and not ordinarily resident. But this further subdivision, whether you are resident and ordinarily resident or not ordinarily resident, will be depending upon only if you are a resident first. Is that absolutely clear? For example, if there is some taxpayer who is a non-resident, then for the non-resident, there is no further classification. Okay, so in order to be resident and ordinarily resident, you have to satisfy 1 and 2. 1 and 2. That is here. 1 and 2. And resident and not ordinarily resident is like a balancing situation. That means if you are not ordinarily resident, then you are not ordinarily resident. It's like a balancing decision. So no special conditions with respect to resident and not ordinarily resident. For that you don't require those special conditions. Okay. Now in the given question we have already decided, where is it gone, baby? Okay, let me change the ink color. We have already decided that condition B is satisfied. In the given question I am telling you, okay. So you are already resident. And because you are already resident, now you have to think whether you are ordinarily resident or you are not ordinarily resident. Okay. Now for this purpose, you will require analysis of total 10 years data. For this purpose. So you should be resident for 2 out of 10 years at least. So now you have to go back to the extent of 10 years before the previous year. Okay. And your second test is 730 days stay. So you will require 7 years data for one purpose and you will require 10 years data for another purpose. And both the condition must satisfy. That's okay. So how do I start the answer and how do I present that particular answer? Okay. So I'll just go to the next page and Okay. So I will write this way. Additional conditions. 1 and 2. I'm leaving space in between because if at all I want to add some extra comments or somewhere, I can do that. Okay. So condition 1, he should be resident for at least 2 out of 10 years preceding the previous year. The moment the word resident comes, you have to apply A or B. Logically, I'm telling you, because the words used is resident. At least 2 out of 10 years. So if it is more than 2 or more, then it is okay. That means you are satisfying this condition. Okay. And his stay in India for 7 years preceding the previous year should be greater than or equal to 730 days. So condition 1 and 2. And. So I have already written and in between. If it is satisfied, then you will be resident and non-resident resident. Otherwise, you will get the status of resident, but not ordinarily resident. That's okay. And friends, I have already told you that you have to keep on making the notes. I am in no hurry. I mean, I can take my own time. So I'm in no hurry. Shall I? Okay, baby. And one more extra thing, let me tell you, friends. I mean, of course, it is all based on the case laws, but at our level, we don't do that. And don't go into that particular greater depth, okay? But this residential status that you are talking, for example, you are saying you are resident or not resident or something like that, okay? That is everything, friends, with respect to a year. It is with respect to a year. So, supposing if you say that you are resident, so it is not that you are resident for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, not like that. It is with respect to the entire previous year. So, having done this particular analysis, ultimately you will have to see residential status for the year. So, for the entire previous year, you are resident or you are not resident or whatever status that you have already got it. Is that okay? So, now I'll have to go and check the additional conditions. And for additional condition, how many before year data I require? 7. So 4 and 3, 7. I'll require this much of data. This is 7 years preceding the previous year. That's the data. I'll have to take the total. And it should be 730 days test. Now, because see, I being a teacher and I've solved this particular question so many times. I mean, by looking at these numbers only, I can take quick decisions. But I don't want you people to do it that way. But I'll tell you my style. See, look at this. The 360 days and 300 days. I'll just take up these larger numbers first. Because I want the total of 730 days. See, I don't want the exact number of days. I want to check whether it is greater than or equal to 730 days. So 360 and 305 by itself is some 665. Then I will catch up the next big number. I mean, I as a teacher do it like that, okay? Because, see, when I'm teaching, I have to take the decision. I mean, before I teach you also, the answer is already prepared in my mind. So, I look at it this way for better understanding. So, I get that feeling, I get that feeling. Oh, that condition is satisfied. So, that 730 days test is passed. Orally, I do it. Have you understood that? Okay. Now, I'll tell you the another trick. Because as I told you that I am a sir. And I teach, and because I have to have my style and I have to have my approach to the subject. Now, second test is 2 out of 10 years. So this particular test, okay, 2 out of 10 years, at least 2 out of 10 preceding the previous year, you should be resident. That's the second condition. Preceding the previous year, okay. That's a second test. So if I say resident, that means I have to check A or B. Just look at my style, okay. I can do it very quickly, and normally these adjustments I do it orally only. So A or B. In A or B, there is a test of 182 days first. Okay. So if you look at A or B, if it is more than or equal to 182 days in last 10 years, so I'll have to analyze 10 years data first. So this is more than 182 days apparently, and so I need to analyze for 2 out of 10 years preceding the previous year. Resident means test A or B. A or B method, first test is 182 days. A is 182 days test. Okay, so I'll immediately catch up these numbers which are more than or equal to 182 days. Moment I catch up, friends, this more than 182 number of days test. So for this year A is satisfied, this year A is satisfied, this year A is already satisfied. 3 years I have already got. Immediately in my mind. 2 out of 10 years at least. At least 2 out of 10 years. 10 preceding years. So I can see it. I can, on the face of it, I can see it that you are already resident. At least for 2 years, but 3 years I can see it on the face of it because condition A is satisfied. So this is one additional condition. Another additional condition is 730 days. This is also satisfied. Orally I have done the calculation. This is also satisfied. So orally I have already got my answer that this gentleman is going to be resident and ordinarily resident. Finish. But friends, question like this in examination condition, sometimes 6 marks, 9 marks or something like that. So you got to have that presence of mind. I mean for decision making. But you got to present it in a little bit lengthy manner because in examination condition, friends, you will get the marks only for all the steps when you're done properly. So first of all, orally only I have already decided that this gentleman is resident and ordinarily resident. And when you say that he is resident and ordinarily resident, the reason why the law decides all these things is because of your next chapter discussion, next topic discussion, like your Indian income, foreign income. So if this gentleman, for example, although he is a foreign citizen, but he is resident and ordinarily resident, so he will be liable for global income taxation in India. That means even if he has got a foreign incomes, he'll have to pay tax in India. And that's the reason we are learning this chapter. And that's the reason the law defines this residential status and tells you the method in which this particular status is to be calculated. So there is a connecting chapter, friends. And that connecting chapter, that will do it, of course, will do it. But you got to understand that why are we doing the entire exercise? Is that okay? So, first of all, that 730 days test. Okay. And let me tell you, friends, let me give you one tip actually. Whenever you are thinking of the additional conditions, no, always, you know, as a student, first do this 7 years test. 7 years, 730 days test. Because that's very simple to do. Very simple to do. And you can do it because 4 years total you have already taken at the time of A or B. Now straight away take 7 years total. Finish. Okay. So let me just write 7 years total now. Let me change the ink color. Okay. So 7 years total is 126 days plus 10 days plus 65 days plus 305 days plus 181 days plus 360 days and plus 16 days. 7 years back. Okay, so that particular test is already satisfied. Now let's go that A or B kind of situation. So for that you have to go 10 years back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you'll need to analyze 10 years. Okay. So beyond 10 years, you don't need to do analysis, but that data is required actually, logically. Some questions print this data, some questions don't print this data. So no need to analyze, but data is needed for the calculation of A or B. Because that 4 years back, no. So if you think about that 10th year, for the 10th year deciding whether you are resident or not ordinarily resident. So for deciding that, you require that 4 years back data. Okay. So now let's do this 10 years. First of all, let's do it quickly wherever it is 1 day, 2 days plus or. So here straight away condition A is satisfied. Condition A is satisfied. Condition A is satisfied. Because 305 is greater than or equal to 182 days. This is 360 because it is greater than or equal to 182 days. This is also 360. Is it a 2 times 360 or I have done a silly mistake? It is 2 times 360. Silly mistakes are possible, friends. You got to be very careful in this chapter because this chapter is very much prone to the silly mistake. So you are resident. Okay. You can say resident, resident, and resident. Okay. You already have that. Fair enough. Okay. Now you have other days. So now we are going to test condition B. But no need to test because if anyone test is satisfied, you are resident. So that's all you want to develop the answer. Okay. So condition B, 126 days should be greater than or equal to 60 days and 4 days back. So the 4 years back to this year is going to be this number. Okay. So and 10 plus 65 plus 305 plus 181 should be greater than or equal to 365. Condition is already satisfied and therefore you are resident. That's okay. Here. Okay. So only 10 number of days. So 10 number of days should be greater than 60, but it is not greater than. So you are non-resident. You are non-resident for that particular year because that condition is not satisfied. Similar situation next. 65 should be greater than or equal to 60 and now the 4 years before is going to be these 4 years. 305 plus 181 plus 360 plus 16 should be greater than or equal to 365. Condition is satisfied and therefore you are resident. Okay. Now here let us test B. 181 should be greater than or equal to 60 and 360 plus 16 plus again 360 plus 180 should be greater than or equal to 365. Yes, it is greater than or equal to 365 and so it is resident. B. 16 number of days should be greater than or equal to 60 but it is not greater. So you are non-resident. I'll tell you another tip also. In any situation, if your number of days stays less than 60, you can straight away jump to conclusion that you are non-resident because you stayed in India only for less than 60 days. So that's, shortcut way of understanding this subject. Okay. Shall I? Now 180 days. So let us test this. 180 days should be greater than or equal to 60, and 65 plus 5 plus 6 plus 310 should be greater than or equal to 365, and you are resident. Now I guess that you have understood that this earlier year's data is being used for this last year's. Okay. And the last one, 65 should be greater than or equal to 60, and 5 plus 6 plus 310 plus 85 should be greater than or equal to 365, and so you are resident. At least 2 years, friends. At least 2 years you should be resident. Now, here in this case, there are so many years you are resident. That condition is satisfied. As I already told you sometimes back that I can do it orally also. But this is a proper way of solving this particular question to get best marks, friends, in the examination condition. Okay. So, now I'll have to write the conclusions. So, this is satisfied. This is also satisfied. Since Mr. X satisfies both the additional conditions, since Mr. X satisfies both the additional conditions, that is 1 and 2, he shall be resident and ordinarily resident. That's all. That's the end of the answer. Okay. So friends, have a look at the final look of the answer. Okay, how it look like. In case you have already missed out something, and entire analysis of the question done, and question like this you should also practice and just go through it properly again and again so that your hardcore basics will get through. Okay, so that's all, friends. I'll take a break now, and I will continue after the break with some more questions on the residential status. Okay, bye bye.